Hey, welcome to BIS for the fans. Today, we're going to be doing what we always do. We're going to have a nice chat about a Bionicle builder and their build style. We're going to be discussing a fun LEGO topic. And we're also going to be looking at a fan-submitted mock and much, much more. So you looking forward to it? Because I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be a fun episode. Let's have fun.
What fun!
What fun!
So let's start off today by discussing our featured builder, which is none other than Shadowgear 6335. So Shadowgear, or Brendan, as he is more commonly known as, has been around in the Bionicle community for, as Jar Jar Binks once said, a long time. He's posted his self-mock way back in 2007, which was 11 years ago. Hot dog! His mock is probably one of the older mocks in the community, which is really cool. So the mock itself has progressed pretty immensely over the years. It sort of started off as an Anika build, and it slowly kind of became more and more custom as both Brendan's building style improved, as well as he just kind of progressed as a person. I think that alone's actually really cool, kind of seeing how a build and a character can evolve as you evolve as a person. And in a way, I guess that's kind of what a self-mock is all about. You know, as they progress, so do you. And it's really cool to see that evolution, and given how old this mock is, it's cool to see how prominent that is. Brendan took a little bit of time off after the deletion of his old YouTube channel, which was immensely successful, by the way, and he was, I suppose you could say, one of the forefathers of the old BioTube. And I guess, really, this channel wouldn't be here today if it weren't for what he did, so hey, look, that's pretty cool. Anyway, after his time off, he replaced Shadow as his self-mock, and in turn created a new character called Minion. Now, this mock has the ability to basically do this. Yeah, so the mock transforms into a larger, more awesome version of itself, which is a really cool concept. Funnily enough, though, Dominion, which is one of the larger forms of Minion, was actually built first, and Brendan liked it enough, and he sort of thought, you know what, I actually kind of want this to be my new self-mock. Fun fact, though, Sovereign, the final form, or final mega evolution of Minion, is these little stickers on his weapons there were actually specifically designed by Brendan's fiancée, Molly, obviously, is otherwise known as Alayra, and we've seen her many times on the channel before. The two of them often attend Brick Fair, Virginia, and actually bring a decent amount of mocks too, which is really cool. So a lot of Brendan's recent work has been actually really unique. He's kind of played around with a lot of these really awesome visual styles and color schemes and character concepts, all sorts of really cool stuff. But often Brendan loves to revisit sort of older characters. And it's great to see that he has such strong attachments to the characters that he makes, and it's fun to see them evolve again as he evolves. One example of one of his mocks that's kind of been progressing a lot through the years is a mock called Circuit. So it began as an entry to the 2013 BioCup and had this really awesome kind of plug hair design. So it mirrored a lot of his old designs, sort of simple Toa-like builds with simple but really effective arm and leg designs, but really well built custom torsos. And I guess you could kind of argue this is the old sort of mock pages style, if you will. But as Circuit progressed, it got more and more custom and more detailed, adding in some nice little additions and refining some concepts. And actually, another little fun fact here, this mock, the original version, the head design was actually based off a sort of power button symbol that you might see on like a PC or a PlayStation or something. And I guess this version and sort of some of the later versions kind of played with that same concept, but making it more kind of like the little, I don't know, like the little display light you might see on like a DS or something, kind of signifying whether something's on or not, which is really cool. It's cool to see how that concept kind of evolved and continued forward. And it's cool to just see how everything evolves throughout this. We saw this mock evolve even more throughout the BioCup, and he simply kind of toyed around with the different kind of concepts and designs, seeing what worked, what didn't, until he was pretty much satisfied. Later, Circuit underwent some pretty massive changes and redesigns, and I believe this was the time when Brendan changed his name from Shadowgear 6335 to Clockwork Tempest. Anyway, this version has kind of been refined and tweaked a little bit over time, and it kind of stayed like this for a while. And again, we can see some really cool, fun anime kind of video game inspired designs throughout this mock, which is something that Brendan really loves to focus on, and you can actually see a lot of that throughout a lot of his mocks if you look deep enough. Or you look in the comments and most people end up guessing it straight away, and Brendan's like, ah, there you go, they got it. So of course, this version of Circuit continues that power eye button design. This one's a little bit more obvious to some degree. But I really like this version of Circuit. It's got so much personality, more than it's ever had, really. It's got some really awesome hand designs and head and poses, all sorts of different things. There's so much character that's and personality that's being communicated through this. It's really, really cool to see. And then finally, in 2018, we see Circuit in her current form. So kind of brought back the old plug design, which slowly kind of got phased out of the mock. And it continues across even more power kind of concepts and themes. It's really, really cool to see. Oh, but before we finish off with Circuit, can we quickly talk about how both Vesper and Circuit were given Halloween costumes in this really, really adorable, really clever post that Brendan made many, many Halloweens ago. I think that's such a fun and clever idea to just simply recolor your mocks, just to kind of see how they look, or to kind of just get into like a holiday spirit of something. I think that's really, really cool. It's just fun seeing that. Oh, and of course, I liked this character so much, and Brendan's a good friend of mine, so I made my own version of Circuit as well. If you really want to look more into that, you can check the links in the description, you can see it there. So, it's cool to kind of follow how one specific mock of Brendan's has evolved over the years, but the same can really be said about all sorts of different mocks that he's made, which you'll probably be seeing on the screen now, depending on how I edit this in post. I briefly spoke about Brendan in the 2013 BioCup. Of course, Circuit was actually created during that year of the contest, and as were kind of a lot of his different characters, actually. Brendan ended up winning the 2013 BioCup, so congratulations, and that was when the contest was held over on mock pages back in the day. And that was actually one of the few times that the BioCup had a theme that was kind of carried across the entire competition. So he made Circuit, and then he had to sort of advance her forward with new designs, like vehicles or bad guys for her to fight, all sorts of different things. And then finally, that round of the BioCup ended with this big, awesome battle between redesigned versions of all the mocks that he'd entered before, and then I think he also had to rebuild or make some kind of like villain for them to fight, which ended up being a revamp of an older character called Carnage, which again has undergone even more awesome redesigns and revamps nowadays, with this really awesome primordial Carnage mock that we see before us. Really, really cool. So other entries into the BioCup saw Brendan design some early drafts of his mock, Tempest. So this mock focused on an earlier mock that he'd made called Guardian, kind of entering into a large mech suit by him sort of separating all of his body parts into different areas on the mock, and then becoming this kind of larger mech as a result. So ironically, though, this isn't the first version of Tempest. This is the first posted version of Tempest, I think. But if you've got some inside context, you'll actually see that this was the first version of Tempest, which it was much, much larger at first. There's a little behind the scenes here. We can see that this mock was supposed to be a mech suit for a Titan mock, which isn't really something I don't think I've ever seen. It's a really ambitious but awesome concept. And speaking of being a little ambitious, this version was never quite finished, but the idea of Tempest was advanced forward into the BioCup. And this was kind of Brendan's kind of holy grail mark, something he always really wanted to perfect and make. And then eventually he managed to make it pretty much the way that he's most satisfied with. And this was brought and displayed at the 2017 Brick Fair Convention in Virginia. And surprisingly enough, this mock was even featured on Beyond the Bricks YouTube channel, as well as LEGO's own personal Instagram story. And as Molly once said, he can never, ever complain about not getting blogged or recognized on anything, ever. Because he got featured on LEGO's Instagram story, of all things. I mean, wow. Very few people have had that privilege, so that's pretty friggin' cool. So heading back to some of Brendan's older work, he used to design this really interesting species that he came up with called Necrosphereans. So they kind of focused on having this sort of ability or kind of defining characteristic that was specifically related to how that character died. Now, obviously, the Necrosphereans are more of a sort of like kind of reincarnated creature kind of thing. But he made a fair few of them, and a lot of them had some really interesting and clever concepts to them. And then back in 2011, something that Brendan did, back in the old mock pages days, he had a self-mock wave. Now, this was something that people actually really enjoyed doing back in the day. Everybody kind of made each other's self-mocks, people like kind of sharing them with everyone, having fun doing that. And it was good fun. There was a really fun culture around that. Everything was a good time. So anyway, Brendan, in his self-mock wave, he made 7 self-mocks, and... Well, I believe it was 7. I might be wrong with that number because he hasn't actually uploaded all of them to mock pages. Some were uploaded to other places, so I might have been missing a couple there. But these specific 7 that he chose to make were builders that he really enjoyed seeing, and people that he felt would just kind of go on to do really incredible stuff in the future in the Bionicle community. And so these self-mocks included Toa Vazok, Toa Phosphorus, Toa Cheesy Q, which of course is now Mr. Mitch Henry, who we know and love. Akai is an old builder that we don't see too much nowadays. Callan Lord of Fire, the one and only. Overlord Galaxus Instant Noodles, his self-mock. And some other like kind of Surge revamp dude. I'm sorry to whoever that is. I can't really find the name for that guy, so I'm sorry I don't remember your name. My bad. So each one was kind of posted one after another, and the end of each post had this little teaser for what was the next one to come. And I remember as a wee lad when that was happening, kind of watching and being really excited about which one's going to be next. There's a lot of kind of anticipation, I guess, like glee with that. It was actually really, really cool, kind of engaging with the community in that kind of really exciting, kind of hype way. It was just awesome. I know I was not alone sitting in anticipation for that self-mock wave. So it's great to see how effective Brendan was in kind of engaging the community in that manner. I thought that was really cool. And heck, it'd be great to see that happening again, seeing more kind of self-mock waves or just things that everyone can kind of rally behind like that. Because that was something that was really cool back in the day. Really liked that. And finally, a project that everybody knows and loves of Brendan's are his bites. Now, these are inspired by chaos and all of his different forms from Sonic Adventures 1. And each one kind of has a different sort of representation of a different part of a computer, or a stylistic interpretation, not a literal interpretation by any means. But all of them use this kind of fun Zamisphere eye design, which they're all super cute and super fun, well designed. And back in the day, Brendan held a contest on YouTube ages ago, where everybody kind of got behind building different versions of bites, and then the winners of each kind of round, Brendan made his own versions of those specific designs, which is super cool. Super, super cool. Anyway, that's it for our coverage on Mr. Brendan, otherwise known as Shadowgear 6335. So thanks for doing some great things in the community, my good sir. Next week, we're going to be covering another Bionicle builder from the community, and yeah, it's going to be a fun time, so stay tuned. But speaking of community, let's have a little bit of a chat about a fan-submitted mock. And this mock is by Mr. Jambo Fan 420 and is called Jambo the Knight. So this is, of course, his self-mock as well. One thing I really like about this mock is the different colored head that it's got. We've seen mocks on the Bionicle Inspiration series before where it's, used some of the Star Wars Ultra build heads to kind of look a little more humanoid, like a dude wearing some armor or something. But I think this mock is so unique because it takes that idea but just applies it to a Bionicle mask. So that's the only bit of purple that we see on this mock. But it kind of just looks like a purple dude wearing some gold armor and something like that. And I think that's really effective and really cool, and I can't say I've seen that before. Unless I have, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's a really unique concept and really simple but really effective. And yeah, I think it's something to possibly think about for your next build. I think it's pretty cool. Something else that I think is pretty cool is the foot design on this mock. Using some of those old Exoforce pieces there that had that socket connection that then sort of stems out into some studs and things like that, but also has a little axle through the middle there. It's just a nice way to kind of create a little foot design like that, and then you can kind of stem off that Hero Factory shell there, kind of looking very kind of like an armored foot that you would sort of see on like typical knight armor back in the day. I think it's a really effective, simple design and works quite nicely for creating a custom foot. I really like it. And something else I really like is just the simple weapons here, simply using that Hero Factory sword and then that Skrull weapon that we saw, the Kopaka blade in black that came with the Skrull Stars sets. They're just a simple but make really effective weapons. I really like it. So a very nice mock by Mr. Jumbo Fan 420. And on a little side note there, thanks for your continued support of the show. Happy to review some audience mocks. And of course, if you want to submit some of your own mocks to the show, you of course can. You can do so by checking the links in the description where you can see the email that you can submit some pictures to your mock, and the email will probably come up on the screen depending on how invested I am when I'm editing this video. It will probably, Ben, you better put that up on the screen. If it's not up on the screen right now, there'll be trouble. It'll be up on the screen. Submit your mocks to that link. Have fun. It's up on the screen. Go ahead, submit away. So that's it for mocks. Let's jump into audience questions. Q&A time. First, I'm going to be answering a Patreon question, and this is from Mr. Lego Loco, and he asks, it's pretty safe to this is his question, by the way I worded that probably didn't transition well, but besides the point, his question is, it's pretty safe to say that Bionicle CCBS Star Wars Ultra Build sets seem to have been discontinued, but if they ever returned, what Star Wars characters would you like to see become official sets? Oh, I think I answered this on Brendan's podcast ages ago, didn't I? But I have new answers to that, so haha. I think last time I actually said in Brendan's podcast I wanted Boba Fett, which we got, so haha, that's awesome. Characters I'd like. Everyone saw this answer coming. I'd like Clone Wars characters. I would love to see an Ahsoka. If they could do her well, I don't know how well she would translate into CCBS, but if it was done well, that would be awesome. Something I'd like to see, we have obviously got a Phantom Menace Maul, but I would like to see a Clone Wars style Maul, more when he's just come back and he has the digigrade robot legs. I think that would be a really, really interesting set just because of how they would design that in CCBS. Especially it'd be really cool to get like printed CCBS shells with the like Dathomir tattoos and stuff. I think that'd be really cool. But also just like Anakin or like other Jedi, especially something like Mace Windu or something, getting like that lightsaber piece in purple, or trans purple rather, that'd be awesome. Or even like, I don't know, Ki-Adi-Mundi getting like his big old head, or Oppo Sissy or something weird, like a really obscure Jedi getting a big old snake tail in CCBS. Actually, would really like Oppo Sissy as a CCBS figure. That'd be cool. He'd have a lot of interesting stuff, like a beard and snake legs, and yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah. All right, there's my answer. Oppo Sissy. Or Wilro Hood as a CCBS figure. I kind of want to make a Wilro Hood mock now. Ooh, that's a good idea. All right, you've inspired me. Look, I've inspired myself. I think that's going to happen. A Wilro Hood mock. There you go. If you don't know who Wilro Hood is, figure that out. You'll have a good time. So that's it for the Patreon question in this episode. We'll be answering another Patreon question next time on the show. If you're not a patron, you can learn more by clicking on the links in the description below. Just $1 a month can give you access to additional contents and goodies, and the combined donations really go a long way in supporting the channel as a whole. So let's go on to YouTube/Instagram questions as I pull out my phone and look at the list that I wrote on the bus this morning. The first question is by Kirimara, and his question is, are you a fan of Doctor Who? Doctor Who? No, I'm so sorry. I'm sure that joke is terrible and old, but I am not a Doctor Who fan. I apologize, I am not. But I know that, didn't the most recent series premiere with the Lady Doctor? I know there was a lot of debate about that. People weren't happy about that, or people were happy about that. How do I feel about that? Look, I have no attachment to the Doctor as a character, so I don't feel like I could answer as effectively. But I think it's really cool that that character is a female. The fact that people can kind of rally behind a female idol like that is awesome and really, really cool. And it's great to see stuff like Captain Marvel, even Ahsoka, Wonder Woman, all sorts of strong female characters coming out of movies and television these days. It's really, really cool, and it's awesome because, man, there needs to be more strong female characters, you know? I think that's really cool. You know, whether or not you want to argue, like, you know, whatever those logistics are, I don't know those arguments well enough about why people are upset with that being the new Doctor. You know, you can argue those if you so please, but even still, it's really exciting that there is a more prominent female roles in TV, movies, and things like that. I think that's really cool. Next question we've got is by Best of Biogram, and they ask, do you like girl Lego sets? Heck yeah, I like girl Lego sets. Elves and Friends are pretty much it for girl Lego sets, but even like Belleville or Clickets back in the day, those were the bomb, man. I never got like Clickets or Belleville as a kid, but I get Elves and Friends whenever they interest me. In fact, one of my upcoming Bionicle mocks features some Elves parts, so get excited. But no, I love them. I love the fact that you can get so many unique colors and pieces and all sorts of cool things. I think that's so exciting and so cool. I definitely don't know how I feel about the kind of quote-unquote stigma of like, oh, I don't want to pick up the girl Lego because I'm a dude. It's like, man, go pick it up if you want to. Like, there's no reason to be afraid of that. And look, if the shopping clerk is like, why are you buying a girl Lego? Then go talk to the manager and get that shop clerk in trouble, because how dare they judge you for something that you like? That isn't fair. But no, I think the girl Lego sets are some of the best in terms of colors and pieces, and that's something I certainly have noticed with Elves. It's the amount of times I look back on older sets and go like, whoa, those had good pieces in them. And it's just like, why did I overlook those? Like, that was incredible. Yeah, there's a lot to love about them. Next question is by Construction Diva, and they ask, do you enjoy the process of building? Heck yeah, I enjoy the process of building. I think there's a lot of kind of, you know, like the process of building in itself is very, you know, it flows a lot. There's a lot of different areas to that process. But like the planning stages are fun, the actual building stages are fun. Obviously the end result is cool too, all of that. I definitely think my like favorite part is more so the building, you know, like it's fun to be able to have mocks around my house displayed and be like, yeah, look at what I built. That's cool. But I definitely enjoy building it more than I do displaying it and looking at it. So no, I of course enjoy it. There's obviously moments that you could possibly argue are kind of less fun to other things. You know, the best part of any building process for me is when I've kind of got the basic structure done and I can now just start detailing and adding in, you know, the little refined subtle things and things like that. That's definitely my favorite part of the building process. But you could argue that moments like when you make a mistake and you have to go back and fix something, or you thought something would work and then it doesn't, and you're like, back to the drawing board. I know some people might be like, I hate that, but for me, that's kind of one of the more exciting parts, because it's like, all right, a challenge, time to overcome that challenge, and also kind of, that's also where a lot of creativity can lie, is coming up against an obstacle or a challenge and being like, okay, time to beat this. How can I beat this? And then creativity kind of can really spawn out of that, because it's by giving up, you don't go anywhere with it, but by persevering through that sort of struggle, you can get some really creative, awesome results. And that's definitely one of my favorite parts of the building process. So yes, I enjoy it a lot. Fourth question and final question is by Cytran1172, and they ask, what do you think of the Makuta species having all 42 Rakshi abilities? Now, when I heard this, I replied to the message and I was like, when was that a thing? And he sent me a little screenshot from Biosector, Bionicle Wiki, whichever one it was. And it reads, and I quote, Rakshi powers, also known as Krata powers or Krata Rakshi powers, were a total of 42 powers that were controlled by the Krata, Rakshi, and Makuta. While Krata and Rakshi could only control one power, Makuta were able to use all of them. When a Makuta was anti-dermis, they could not use all Rakshi powers, but only the telepathical ones. Some of these powers were also elements, and that's about it on that. And that kind of blew me away. I was like, whoa, really? I didn't know that. That's cool. I'll admit my Bionicle lore knowledge is not what it used to be, but that's really cool that Makuta have access to all 42 of those powers, because some of them are kind of OP, like, I don't know what. I'm just reading from the list here. Accuracy, adaption, anger, the power of anger. I like that. Chain lightning, chameleon, confusion, cyclone, darkness, destiny control, lightning, fire resist, hunger, ice resistance, laser vision, magnetism, molecular disruption, mind reading. Man, Makuta are OP, guys. So that's cool. And also on that, I think just that of like going through Biosector, Bionicle Wiki and all that sort of stuff, and finding little facts like that can actually be a really cool spawn for a mock, because you might be like, oh, I want to build a Makuta now. How OP are they? They got laser eyes and power over their own emotions like anger. And that's cool. That's cool indeed. And yeah, that kind of makes me want to build a Makuta. I was like, oh, cool. So I like that, yeah. And heck, there was just that eye collab that I didn't even know about that timed so well with my Rakshi episode. So there you go. So take a look at some Rakshi mocks or Makuta mocks, because there's a fun fact about them. So that's it for audience questions. I actually got a lot sent over, so if you didn't hear yours in this episode, you'll probably hear it in the next episode, because I got a bunch to go through now. So stay tuned for then if yours didn't get answered. Now it's time for our LEGO themed discussion, and this time I want to discuss LEGO Forma. So Forma. I don't know, Forma seems, it's a weird word. It's kind of like Lego Kuso. It's like, what does that even mean? LEGO Forma. So in case you missed the announcement, LEGO has revealed a brand new and exciting product line designed for adults called LEGO Forma. The first wave of little small batch sets produced under the LEGO Forma line will be these kind of kinetic sculptures of fish, which are kind of created with these funky moving kind of Technic cores, and then are wrapped in these 4 skin patterns, which are kind of made of foil, and they represent 3 types of koi fish, and also 1 shark. So this main kind of koi model, it contains 294 parts, and looks, well, a lot like a koi fish. It's pretty cool. It's actually going to be 10 inches high and 11 inches long, so, it's an average kind of set. And the initial wave of these LEGO Forma sets are going to be available for pre-order on this weird site called Indiegogo, and they're going to be like, what's it say? So they're going to be available for pre-order on Indiegogo as backer perks for now until November 6th, or whenever the product runs out. So the base set is $45 US, and is only available in the United States and the United Kingdom for the time being, which upset me because I got my credit card out. I was all excited. I was like, I'm going to buy me some Lego fish. And I went through everything. I put my name on their freaking email sign-up list. I get all these Indiegogo web emails now. And it's like, oh, we don't ship to Australia. And it's like, oh, man, come on. Come on. I just want to buy a fish. So I envy all of you British and American people who can buy the kois. I want them. Anyway, so if the project meets its funding goals, then the sets will be shipped out in early 2019, which is pretty cool. So I look forward to seeing some people using those parts or just buying them and showing them off. It's actually really cool. It's an awesome project. I like this idea. So this LEGO Forma product line has been created as a kind of limited short batch pilot program. It's primarily designed to target LEGO early adopters. This is their wording. I'm reading from the articles online. And it's kind of to determine if there is an appetite and market for unique products that don't really lend themselves to the LEGO Ideas platform. So there you go. So LEGO has partnered with Indiegogo to be the first crowdfunding platform hosting the product line. So possibly that means other different kind of crowdfunding places could get this, if I'm reading that correctly. And LEGO themselves says that a series of pilots, and this is me quoting this by the way, a series of pilots are being planned to run in various locations and formats over the coming year to float new ideas, crowdsource others, and receive real-time feedback from consumers to evaluate whether concepts should be developed and scaled. So the LEGO Forma project is similar in scope and crowdfunding to the newly announced AFOL design program hosted by Bricklink, which is really cool. But the thing that I was most interested out of this, obviously the actual product line itself is really cool, it's Technic and those skin things, yeah, kind of lend themselves to CCBS and Bionicle mocking. But the thing that really interests me is the fact that, well, one, there's only going to be 20,000 of these sets, which, you know, that's still a big number, but in the larger scope of things, it's still relatively small, so there you go. It's the fact that they said the word, well, it's the fact that these are more AFOL specific. So I think that's really cool. You know, the fact that they want direct feedback to kind of ultimately move things forward into sets and kind of, release them later down the line and stuff like that. I think it's really promising and really exciting. Like they've said, it sounds similar to LEGO Ideas, but yeah, it's kind of possibly going to give us things that LEGO Ideas couldn't. You know, LEGO Ideas seems to need to cater to the children aspect of their target audience, but this seems to kind of have maybe a different target audience. And so I kind of thought, well, hey, you know, they said they wanted to crowdsource new ideas. So do you think that, you know, if enough people were interested, and this could be, you know, speculate responsibly, guys, but do you think that if enough people were interested that maybe they could maybe look into some Construction CCBS style toy products here? I mean, I think it's an interesting idea, you know, if they want this feedback and to kind of get this direct line between AFOLs and the LEGO company in itself, you know, maybe they could kind of learn how to improve CCBS as a whole, and kind of advance the theme forward in some fashion to have it be as successful as Bionicle used to be, all that sort of stuff. So, I don't know, I think it's really exciting. I think it's really cool. So I don't know, what are your thoughts on LEGO Forma as a theme and a brand, and what kind of stuff do you want to see in the future? Are you excited about these koi fish? Are you going to pick some up? Do you want to make them the koi sharks? Because I didn't mention that, but you can actually switch. Oh no, I did mention that. Besides the point. There you go. Are you excited for them? You're going to be picking up these sets? And let me know. It'd be interesting to have a little bit of a discussion in the comments below. So leave some comments and we'll chat. So that's almost it for the episode. Let's just quickly finish off with some advice to keep in mind while you're building this week. So today our advice is going to be a quote from a Mr. Joseph Clinton Pierce, and he says, "To live a creative life, we must lose our fear of being wrong." So I say all the time in BIS and a lot of my videos that making a mock is about kind of trial and error, right? And you got to practice so you can advance and improve, all that sort of stuff. But often the kind of the fear of messing up or the fear of being wrong can actually get in the way of that. And so this week, I implore you, good ladies and gentlemen watching, ignore that voice in your head that is telling you that you're going to mess up, or that voice that's saying you're going to be wrong. And instead, do whatever you were going to do anyway. You know, make the mock, build the thing, write the story, ask the girl out, I don't know, all that sort of stuff. Because I can almost guarantee you that it probably wasn't going to be wrong. It probably wasn't going to be an issue. And heck, if you aren't making something or doing something necessarily this week, don't be afraid to ask somebody for guidance or ask someone for help, because really there is no such thing as something that is right or something that is wrong. It just is. So don't think that it's too silly or wrong or dumb. And if you're going to ask a question, or you're going to make something, or there's literally nothing wrong. If you want some feedback or you want some answers to something, you need some clarification on something, ask away, do whatever, because don't let the fear of being wrong get in the way of you becoming a better builder. Yeah. Anyway, so that's a little bit of advice to think about while you're building today. If you employ it this week, well, let me know. I'd be happy to hear your little success stories. It'd be even cooler to see the mocks that you made as a result. Anyway, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next episode of BIS for the Fans.